Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. A little hope for the youth, for the young people, in dealing with the old people. The old people have all these sayings, and they have a lot of fortitude inside of them. Whether it's true fortitude or foolish fortitude, the fact is they have their they have experience of time, whether that led them to become smarter or just to become a fool. Either way, they're deep into their wisdom, their foolishness, or their averageness, and the young people, they don't have the scars of battle. They don't have many years of rage inside of them. You understand? They're fresh. They're new. They're easygoing. They're open. You understand? They're hopeful. So it's a big challenge dealing with the older folk. And the older folk might have the money. They're the ones that very likely will have the money that you'll need to get from them, so you could start your own business and pay them back. You understand? Or for partnership, that's a worse scenario. You understand? Uh, they might have the girl of your dreams or the boy of the dreams that you're looking for. You understand? It might be their son or their daughter, or they're in control of that young person because they haven't watched our Jewish classes, and they haven't become an adult. They're physically an adult, but their mind is that of a child. You understand? So, little advice of how to deal with the older folk. They'll have all these sayings. You have to respect me. I'm older than you. All these things. You understand? A simple response is, just because you're married, or just because you're older, whatever you're dealing with, you understand? Usually, married people think that they're better than someone that's single. You understand? That's usually a very big thing where they're coming from. But sometimes you're dealing with someone that's very old, and they're coming to you because they're old. You understand? You have to tell them that just because, let's just take the normal scenario that you're dealing with. It's usually someone that's married, and that's where they're getting the strength to think that they're better than you. They're also older, but the main thing is because they have, a chicken on their side. You understand? That they could flop around with, and they think that makes them superior. So, so you need to tell them. You tell them as follows: just because I have a wife, it doesn't mean that I'm not that just because you have a wife doesn't mean I'm not a human being. You have to treat me, and so basically you're bringing it back to center. The reason why most of the times what you're doing is not like you're being what they're expecting from you is to treat is that you should treat them like they're claiming that you can't do this, but really what they're talking about is something that they should be treating all human beings that way. You understand? And they just think that because they're married, therefore really you have to treat them properly. You understand? Now there are things. Someone's older, you help them with the packages, this, that, but it doesn't mean that you allow them to ruin your life. It doesn't mean that you allow them to just do whatever they want. You understand? Or to ruin someone else's life, or you have to accept their stupid ideas, whether it affects you or not. Doesn't mean you have to do that. You understand? So, and just like in life, sometimes you get frustrated and you get angry. It could be to someone young, it could be someone older. It happens. It's a normal thing. If it's happening all the time, that's an issue. You understand? You have to work and stuff, but it's normal. It happens sometimes. You understand? So their claim is, because I have a chicken on my side, because I have someone to dance around with. You understand? Therefore, or because I'm older. You understand? Therefore, Now you really have to do it. And you're reminding them when you say that, listen, just because I'm not married doesn't mean I'm not a human being. You're reminding them that uh, that this has nothing to do with having a chicken on your side. There's nothing to do with having white here in your beard or whatever it may be in your hair. Or some people they take they go both they shave their head because they don't have a full head of hair. You understand? This has nothing, and this is in this. This has nothing to do. This has nothing to do. This is a human being thing, and and so first of all, you're reminding them of that, and if they think that you now have to accept the stupid thing that they said, whether it affects you or not, just because they're old, just because they have a chicken on their side, just because they have control of young girls, you understand? This is, or young boys, whatever it may be. This is, you're showing them that that they are false. You understand? And so that's like a simple response. You understand that one could say. Now, a lot of the time, you didn't do anything wrong. You understand? They just think that they have to be treated better. You understand? So that's that. Sometimes you did do something wrong. But if they're a 2-year-old and they're like focusing on it, listen, we're not in kindergarten. Oh, okay, Rifki and Shimmy say I'm sorry to each other. This is not kindergarten. You understand? So if that's what they're focusing on, you don't have to get into that. Uh, that tit tat and that little kindergarten kids. Uh, they're still in kids mode. You don't have to get into that. But you could find a more elegant way of just, you know, you know, um, getting out of it. At the end of the day, uh, you have to become smart yourself. You can't expect me or someone else to give you all the wisdom. We're giving you wisdom so your brain could mature, get rid of the falsehoods that are stopping your brain from growing, and open your brain for growth, and then to give it tidbits of wisdom that will give your brain the growing power that will feed it water. You understand? Torah is diamond to water. The Torah is diamond to water, and the water nourishes. You understand? But a person needs to accept it. You know, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes the truths that we say, it's hard for people to accept. But if you do accept it, then it nourishes your mind. It gives it proper guidance and proper, it gives it the proper step forward to do, as opposed to giving it, you know, water mixed with sugar and mixed with all, chemicals and all these other things, and the mind goes off on some weird blue freakish way. You understand? So this is all in the choice of a person, and it's something that could be very helpful for the youth, to understand uh, how to respond. And this is one of the strongest responses, though it's very simple. But just because, right? Just because I'm young doesn't mean I'm not a human being. Just because I'm young, just because I'm not married doesn't mean I'm not a human being. Just because I'm not old doesn't mean I'm not a human being. You understand? This simple response is extremely powerful, and you can literally just say it again and again and again and again. You understand that there's no limit. The truth of it is so powerful, and and it's very helpful. Now, I do want to go to a second step. I guess this is more red pilling over here. And people that go in the way of truth to a very big extreme, you come to a point when there are things that are specifically meant, everybody goes to the bathroom, right? If you're a man, if you're a woman, you understand? But there are things that specifically apply to men. Let's say warfare. And there are things that specifically apply to women, right? A woman understands when the child needs to eat. Now, if the woman, some women have a problem that they're stuffing the child and he's becoming fat. It's true, but we're talking about not that scenario. You understand? And so when a woman says the child needs to eat, we have to stop. You're driving on the highway and she says the child needs to eat now. That's her specialty. She knows that. You need to listen to her. You understand? So let's say a man came and he started to, he thought he knows better than the woman. He thinks that all of a sudden he knows. You understand? You just ignore him. And the same thing, the opposite. A woman all of a sudden thinks she understands warfare. You understand? Now, if there's a stupid man and a very intelligent woman, that we're talking about regular case scenarios. You understand? So people, okay. So, okay. Further. So you just don't listen to what. So you have this man that's intelligent man. And he's saying this is warfare. This is what we need to do. And then you have this woman saying otherwise. You understand? We just don't hear what the woman is saying because this is not her area of expertise. This is something. This is in the nature of man. You understand? And this person is also knowledgeable in that area. He's an expert. Now, sometimes a woman is saying something and it's because she listened to a man. And she's saying, well, this other man says this. That's a different scenario. We're not talking about that. We're talking about she's saying from herself that she's thinking otherwise. That doesn't mean that she can never be right. But you have to say, these men are experts. They know what they're talking about. And that's it. You understand? This is their area of expertise. So, when a person, you don't have to hear everybody, and this is important. You're talking to a man, all of a sudden his wife chirps in. You don't have to hear her, or vice versa. You're talking to a woman, all of a sudden the husband chirps in. You don't have to hear the husband. You understand? They're physically speaking, but you don't have to hear them. You could turn away when she starts to talk, and then turn back. Turn away for a few moments, showing your displeasure, and then just ignore her and just continue talking to the man. And so there are ways to go about things. Of course, there's many different scenarios. You understand, and that's what you need your wisdom. And also depending on your nature. Some people are very, very strong nature, so they're more strong in their position and how they deal with things. Other people are more easygoing. You understand? So depending on the person has to get in touch with themselves and to understand their nature and who they are, and to do things not to make believe there's something that they're not. Doesn't mean if someone wants to just kill people, they should just go killing everybody. Understand? No, he should go in the army, go in special forces. You understand? You have to not ignore your energies, but tame them. You have to tame the beast, and and you need to know how to deal with things. There's some people that they're going to give stronger responses when responding. There's some people they're going to give much lighter responses. Everybody, you understand? You need to know who you are and then learn how to be graceful, etiquette, charismatic with your abilities. You understand? You have to know how to assert yourself, to not let people take advantage of you, to step over you. You have to assert your manhood. You have to assert your womanhood. You understand? And when you assert, sometimes that's you taking control. Sometimes you're asserting for instance, let's say a woman is asserting her womanhood, and she's being submissive. She is not allowing the feminist to brainwash her and ruin her marriage. You understand? So assertiveness could be in different things. You understand? You have a man. Let's say they're red pilling him and he's going too far. You understand? There are good women out there. He's starting to think every woman's bad. No, there are good women. There are good women out there, and hopefully you'll find one of them. You understand? So this is important, extremely important. Uh, Midas, the Torah doesn't say specifically be this, specifically be that. It says there's Midas, and that refers to, a person's good or bad character traits, right? And the goal is to have good midas, midas taivis, good midas, you understand? But mida doesn't also means a measurement. And that is that the mida for one person, the way it's used, is different than someone that's otherwise, you understand? There are different types of people, right? If you have a very, uh, you know, easygoing person, the way he uses the different midas is in a more relaxed, easygoing way. Someone who's very intense, they will, there'll be a bit of stinging. It'll have a little sting, to it, in the way that they use the midas. There's a difference between being evil and being assertive. You understand? So people are assertive in different ways depending on their nature, and a person needs to understand that. They have to understand who they are in the core, and sometimes a person has to, become more assertive. They're too easygoing. You understand? It's not good for them. And sometimes you have someone that's so extreme that they need to come back a bit. You understand? Not that they need to become the easygoing person, but they need to come back a bit. You understand? So each person needs to understand that. So hopefully this gives some wisdom in life, and it will be helpful for a person in a self growth. I love you, Shalom Zimar.